A lot of folks have been asking me what kind of instrument I play on and what my setup is. So I want to share with you what I'm currently using. It's now October 2024 at the time of filming this video. So this wonderful violin is by Sebastian Ordziniak. Hopefully I'm pronouncing that correctly. Maybe somebody can correct me if I said it wrong. It was made in 2017. It was sold to me by my luthier and friend Lucas Vronsky here in New York City. Also, this bow I like very, very much. By the Serbian-American bow maker named Vladimir Radosavljevic. Hopefully I'm saying that correctly too. Really, really love this bow. So now I'm just gonna get a little bit into my setup because I think that's what people were more interested in. And the thing I would like to discuss the most is why I went back to my old setup. And by old setup, I mean before I got my Chinrest fitting 3 years ago. So actually it wasn't all that different what my Chinrest fitting results were to what I was using before and to what I'm using right now. It's slightly modified, but essentially it's all based on the same principle that I've been exploring. So for the folks who have been watching my older videos, you might have noticed that my Chinrest is a little different right now here. And actually it's the same model I've been using, the Berber model. But it actually comes at different heights, and there are various options when it comes to the angle of the slope here. So before I went to see a body mapper for the first time to get a custom fit for my shoulder structure, my jaw structure, neck length, all that stuff. Before I got the custom set, I had one of these that was actually higher. It was, I think it was 28 millimeters. And it was just, at the time, it was slightly too high for me. I actually used it throughout graduate school. And during those years, I actually had absolutely nothing back here. Just that very tall Berber. Actually, I think they make them as high as 32. And that one in particular had a very steep slope and was a little bit more angled over here. And then a few years after finishing graduate school, I realized I just wanted a little bit something under here. So I put a magic pad on this corner and I played like that for a few years. Then when I went to see my body mapper 3 years ago, and this was when I was in the middle of just kind of exploring body mapping for the first time and becoming more aware of the benefits, and I think all musicians should study it at least a little bit, especially if you're a teacher. So when I got my custom setup, it was the Berber model, 24 millimeters, very little slope at all. It was almost entirely flat actually, and we even had this part of it cut off because I wasn't using this part of the Chinrest at the time. I was mostly like directly over here. And actually I remember I watched some old videos of myself playing, and I remember I was almost holding the violin the old Baroque style where people a long time ago used to hold it on this side when people had no chin rests, no shoulder rests. So it was kind of, that decision was kind of based on that, the way I presented myself 3 years ago. Since body mapping is something that can help you learn more about the general anatomy and how different like how the muscular system and fascia system and our skeletal system, how they all work together, how the movements affect everything else. Everything's connected, you know, I have to think of it in a very holistic way. Since it helped me to become a little bit more aware, taught me what to look out for when fitting myself, and I became a little more self-aware about what was working and what was not. Of course, at the end of the day, every person knows their own comfort and what works for them more than anybody else. So any guidance with chin rests, shoulder rests, you follow it up with educating yourself with these things, and then you can sort of start to notice things for yourself. At the, you know, just like when we have a teacher for like taking lessons, essentially we have to learn how to teach ourselves, right? Most days of the week we don't have a teacher coming to see us every single day. Like if I'm teaching a student, I only see them once a week. All the other days they have to essentially learn how to become their own teacher. So the same thing I think applies here, that I know my own comfort and my need to play. So depending on your genetics, your body proportions, you're going to notice things as well. At the end of the day, you know best what kind of compromises you may need to make. Now, something must have happened in my playing or in my posture over the past 3 years since that custom fitting, which created a need for a wider gap in my setup. And the height needed to be a little bit taller. And maybe my shoulders got more relaxed, or I don't know. So thanks to some very basic body mapping education, I got a better understanding of how to find a good fit than I did 3 years ago. So with that knowledge and experience, it also came with more confidence and more self-awareness. And I think that's true for just about anybody doing this, but also at the same time, you start asking more questions. You know, once you start exploring a subject, it's like you open a box and then there are smaller boxes inside, and then, you know, you go down that rabbit hole. Of course, since I'm still figuring out the basics of custom fitting, or I was a few months ago, just to be sure, I did get some reassuring advice from one of my mentors at the Paul Rolland Society before switching back to the more common standard model of the Berber, which is this one right here. This one is 25 millimeters, but it also has a slightly more slope than the custom one, so it gives me a little something to grab onto here. So even though the collarbone is like a little shelf for the violin, with this shape of the Berber versus the custom one, that one was too flat for me. It's just a little more secure, I think. And well, on the back, Magic Pad is still my favorite thing to use, but I have been playing around the past couple months. I've been testing out this one called the ArcRest. I find it very interesting, actually. The first time I put it on, it was super uncomfortable, and I actually have it on the lowest setting. So they have different paddings here. Actually, I'll show it from this angle. There are actually paddings that you can add on top, kind of layer them up, and I think it comes with 4 from what I remember. So I just put on the one to keep it on the lowest setting, and it says the maker recommended that for most people having it in the center was the best, but I think for me on the side is a little bit better. And sometimes I angle it slightly diagonal, not too much, not quite 45 degrees, more like something like this. Now, will this be my setup in 5 years? I definitely cannot say, because, you know, change is the only constant in life, and all of our bodies will continue to change throughout our lives until the end. My biggest goals, of course, for setup is comfort, access to all parts of the fingerboard, be able to reach the tip with the tip of the bow, which is why I do centered Chinrest for me, because I have short arms. And of course, injury prevention is a big one. So if you're interested into learning a little bit more about body mapping, and you're not sure where to start, for violin and viola players, a great source is Jennifer Johnson's book. It's called What Every Violinist Needs to Know About the Body. And this book, I'm just going to warn you that this book is quite dense with information. It can take a very long time to get through just a couple pages for me, because this is the kind of book where you look at one section of it and you just kind of dive deep and explore just that part. I think that's the best way to make the most out of this, instead of just kind of read cover to cover, unless it works better for you. Some people, like, they'll read the whole thing and then they'll go into each section separately. This is definitely something that is more than one read. I don't read this cover to cover. I usually go to the section I need in different days, depending on what I'm exploring in my playing, or if I'm feeling certain things, certain discomforts, whether it's just from sitting or maybe after rehearsals, things like that, or when I'm exploring, also when I was exploring setup. There's actually a huge chapter on breathing, and I think is incredible. You know, that's the one that's taken for granted the most. I think that's the one I'm going through right now. Now, since the information here is quite dense, very detailed, and it's truly excellent, it can be a little bit overwhelming at first. So if you would like something easier to read to start with, I recommend her other book. Well, actually there are two others, but this one, Teaching Body Mapping to Children. And actually this is the one I started with. It was much easier to read and grasp the information. And also, if you are a teacher, if you teach children, this is absolutely fantastic. Elementary school kids can actually understand, they can do the exercises in this book, and they're actually really fascinated by some of the things they learn. I love seeing the look on their face when they learn how long their fingers really are. Okay, so back to this book. I'm still going through it. There is a third book out which focuses specifically on the shoulder region. Now for these two, I will link down in the description below. The third one I have not read yet. I don't have it yet. I hopefully soon. So that's my setup right now, towards the end of 2024. We'll see how it changes or not. I know some people use the same setup for years and years and it works great for them. That's awesome. It seems that for me, I have to make small adjustments as I go, and that's fine too. Everybody's different. Curious about your own journey? Let me know in the comment section below. You can share what it is that you like to use. Do you wear a shoulder rest? Do you not use a shoulder rest? What kind of chin rest do you have? Do you have any questions about this topic? And we can actually have a discussion about this. Also, if you have not already done so, sign up for my free newsletter. I mostly use it to share my latest content, but sometimes I do share some exclusive information that I will never be sharing here on YouTube or on my website. So links down below. You'll get a free practice template PDF as a gift. And I look forward to hearing from you. Happy practicing.